Welcome back to another episode of Ballers, Beers, and Banter. I'm your host, Dave. Here with me, one's a buck, one's a son, Anthony and Moose.
Hello.
So
what
much of that
is up.
So much of that got cut out for sure. For me, anyways. I don't know if it's like you went,
but he did good. He like pulled back.
Yeah, he pulled back. You went like Daft Punk noises
for
a moment there.
I wasn't going to do that initially, and then I realized we hadn't done something silly like that in a while. So I
yeah, well, we usually do something silly.
I went there.
You did. You did. You went there. How'd it feel?
Good. I don't want to be the buck though.
But you're Moose. I just thought it was so easy. Do you know
what was
the
other one? I already forgot.
A son. A buck and a son. An NBA Finals reference for you guys.
I've got this right
the Suns
here.
are gonna win, so I'll pick the Suns.
It's a Patriots logo for those who are listening.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be a Buccaneer with Tom.
But it's not a buck, it's a Milwaukee Buck. So it's not a Buccaneer.
No, I got it. But we were talking about football and Buck. The
outrageous intro to the show.
So Anthony's the buck and Moose is the son. Yeah.
I mean,
what? Yes. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I was gonna try. I had a whole thing. I was gonna explain. It's too wild.
Okay. It's probably too wild. Anyways, there's just a little NBA Finals reference for you. Big game for the Milwaukee Bucks yesterday.
Are there any other sports?
2-2.
Are there any other sports you'd like to talk about real quick?
No, just throwing it out there for our fans. You know, who are paying attention. There's really only
our football fans.
When the NBA wraps up, then that's when you know it's full on NFL season, right? And the NFL just dominates because it's the only thing on for a bit, and it's the best. Sundays, Monday nights, Thursday nights, all just dedicated to football for me, anyways, and fantasy. Boomsies, as we would say. All right, very excited to get into our main topic today, which is fantasy draft tips. So our number one suggestions and tips and reminders for you people as you approach, for our listeners, as we approach draft season, crucial to be ready for your draft.
That road to victory.
Yeah, on the road to victory. Attaboy. But
it's
of course,
important.
first
that's my first tip is to know that it's a road.
It's a journey. Yeah, a journey Moose has been on many times. But first, we have some headlines. You guys want to jump in, Anthony? If you can take care of the first couple headlines.
Yeah, I will go. Veteran ex-wide receiver Jordan Matthews has added 15 plus pounds and will work out this weekend as a tight end for the NFL scouts at the Hub Camp in San Diego. He attended TU and has been working out in Nashville with a group of tight ends, including George Kittle and Robert Tonyan. He is repped by noted tight end agent Steve Carrick. This was the news broke from Ian Rappaport.
Wow.
So, I mean, he's just another player that's trying to make it as a tight end. We have, of course, had Tim Tebow. And who's the other one?
Kelvin Benjamin.
Benjamin.
I'll be honest.
And former running back Brandon Jacobs wanted to be a tight end. Oh, no, defensive end. He said defensive end.
Good for all these guys. But if I was a tight end, I'd feel insulted a little bit.
Yeah.
That everybody thinks that they can be a tight end. Every washed up jabroni thinks they can just put on a couple pounds and become a tight end.
Yeah, I mean, like, what are the criteria to get a tryout here? I feel like I should just announce, be like, hey, guys, just want everyone to know, I recently put on 15 pounds. I'm ready for my tight end tryout.
That's it.
Not even muscle, just like, how'd you put on your 15 pounds? I was quarantined. I watched a lot of Netflix. A lot of pizza and beer were involved. But anyways, I did it. I put on the 15. It was tough, but I did it. I'm ready. Try me out.
Any minute now, there's going to be a headline that says, Eddie Lacy has put on 30 pounds. He's come out to be
like 150.
He's come out to be a tight end.
No, Eddie Lacy's put on 150 pounds. He wants to be He wants to be a center for the Green Bay Packers. Oh, goodness gracious. Wild.
Yeah.
That was
Eddie Lacy lived the dream. He had a couple of, maybe 1 or 2 good years, made his money, and then, he just lives and just loves cheeseburgers.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure all his money's gone. I think he ate it all. He spent it all on the cheeseburgers.
Maybe he invested it in like a
cheeseburger chain.
Well, here I'll go, Dave. I'll go off sport for some information.
Yeah.
Apparently, Shaquille O'Neal owns 80% of the Five Guys franchises.
I wouldn't be surprised, but he also he's a part owner of Papa John's.
I don't know. But the point is,
Papa John's, I think.
maybe Eddie Lacy's got a in at one of these burger joints. Also, Eddie Lacy, if you're listening, please send me a cheeseburger.
An autographed cheeseburger, please.
I'd eat it. I'd still eat it.
I wouldn't. All right.
No,
that was a great headline. Anthony.
What would you do with it? Hold on. Pause real quick. What would you do with a signed cheeseburger? Would you freeze it? Because I know you wouldn't freeze it and eat it later.
No, I wouldn't really have any use for it. To the garbage it would go.
So the thing is, on
Sorry,
Reddit, because I know we have Reddit listeners, there's a guy who put a hot dog in epoxy, and every every so many days, he shows the result of the hot dog to see if it's gotten.
What's epoxy?
Epoxy's like I don't know. It's like a liquid that then becomes solid.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's like airtight. So like you can pour epoxy into things or around things and keep them like encased.
Right. Okay. And it's just encased in this thing.
Yeah, it's just a hot dog
in it.
encased in epoxy.
In it.
I think the
Yeah.
last time I saw, we were at like 90 days or something. Hot
And
dog
it's
still looks
still-
good. It looks edible.
So better than freezing it.
Riveting stuff.
But
here.
we don't know. I'll have to freeze a hot dog for 90 days. I don't think freezing a hot dog for 90 days would result in this the same thing as putting in epoxy, but we can try at the end of the summer.
Okay. Anthony, next headline.
All right. So again, more Damien Harris news per ESPN. Harris is New England's surefire #1 running back headed into 2021. So there's more news coming out about him. Moose, change your mind at all?
Don't believe it. Do not believe this.
Well, don't believe that he's going to be the surefire #1 or that the Patriots surefire #1 is worth drafting.
No, this information is just to get you excited because you're so down that Cam Newton is our quarterback. I don't do
But
not.
that's
never.
a lot of reports coming out now. Like he's been dominating camp. He's looking great. He's
No, do not trust it.
But hold on, but you didn't answer the question.
But here,
Yeah.
the problem's not him. The problem is the Patriots. His talent,
Yes.
we've seen him
Okay.
produce for fantasy purposes and in real football. So it's not him. It's Belichick's offense.
Yes.
So
Okay, but
they
that's
always
fair.
try to So it's not.
Oh
It's not
yeah,
a him.
no,
problem.
I'm not knocking his talent. Oh, I'm sure out of all the running backs, he is the most talented. But that talent is not going to help you in the fantasy football game.
So you're of the belief that there won't be that the surefire #1 on New England is not the same as a bell cow back. Like they won't get all the work.
Well, they just
They're
went
gonna
out.
spread it out.
They just went out and got 3 wide receivers.
So you're just worried about the production of whoever's the #1 guy in New England or all of them.
I'm not worried about the production. I'm sure he'll have very productive weeks, but that's it. Can you predict those weeks? Will you know him? Like
Exactly.
I would not want him. You know, we're going to get into this a little bit later on about running backs, but I would not want to be in a situation where I had to look at my roster every week and go, "Oh shoot, is this the week Damien Harris is gonna perform with the Patriots, or are they just going to toss it down the field all day?"
So, and I know some of you listeners might be like getting antsy in your seat listening to us when we're talking about this. We're not saying don't draft him. We're saying don't buy into the hype of him being the RB1 and, reach for him and have him as your RB2 and be like, I'm going to start this guy and I'm going to dominate my league because this guy as a 4th running back come on your bench, perfect spot for him. A guy that you can slot in if you know they're going up against the worst defense in the league against the run. I mean, this is not a guy you want to start, but you still can't even predict that. But just having him on your team as a 4th running back, no problem there. If you want to take a shot on him, that's when you do it. Don't think of him as a starter though.
What you actually want to do is take this article and send it to everyone in your league and get them. You want to get them hyped up about it, and like really be convincing about it too, and be like, "Shoot, I wish I could get him, but you're probably going to draft before me, so you should take him."
I think we got to keep. I think Anthony, you're right to point out that we're not saying don't roster him because you can get him around like in round 8 of your draft, right? So at that point, you're not getting any bell cow backs. You're not getting a lot of starting running backs. So, I think he's great to take there.
But you might miss out on a great tight end if you haven't already taken one, or you might miss out on an even better wide receiver.
A great tight end in the 8th round?
I mean, possibly. I mean, if you've missed the best, you might get a decent.
Well, decent and great.
It's all a roll of dice at that point.
Yeah, comparatively to.
All right, Moose, you had some headlines for us as well. First one's out of Tampa Bay.
Oh, Tampa Bay. So I don't have the exact headline, but it's apparently Tom Brady played all last season with an MCL injury.
Yep.
Which he had surgery on postseason, and I don't know. That's the headline.
He's back up and running. He's been playing golf. He was in the Capital One match. He's all good, man. He's still rehabbing it, but yeah, it's impressive. I think it goes to show. I mean, something that not like Brady really relies on his legs. He doesn't really move.
I don't even know what an MCL is.
Well, you have your MCL and your ACL. The two ligaments in the knee. It's the anterior crucial ligament. I don't know the C part and the medial.
Well, I mean, it can't be that crucial.
They're both important.
Can't be that crucial if he played the whole season with an injured one.
You can. Anyways, it's a testament of Tom Brady's toughness and his health regiment.
Regimen.
Thank you. You're right.
Regiment
would be like a brigade, right? Like in the army.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, staying with Tampa, Keyshawn Vaughn, Moose might not make the team.
Ooh, Keyshawn Vaughn. He is on the roster bubble, which is unfortunate because, well, Dave was very hyped about him, and rightly so. He looked like he had potential, maybe. But, it looks like a bunch of old guys have moved ahead of him, which is, and one young guy. Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, and Giovanni Bernard might boot him off the team.
Those are the main guys. I mean, for redraft, Keyshawn Vaughn's done, right?
He's Keyshawn gone.
And for
can't look good for Dynasty either, though.
Well, for Dynasty, you could pick him up for pretty cheap right now. But again, I have him on my roster.
But it's the same thing. Like if we, we've talked about more hyped players, and it's like, oh, he's the 4th target. Like Keyshawn Vaughn, what is he like? 10th? Like they would have. He's like the JaMychal Hasty, but worse of last season. Like that would be the wildest bold man prediction to say that.
Yeah, he'd be a deep roster stash.
Like way deep
in Dynasty.
Well, I mean, if Kalen Ballage has found his way onto multiple teams last season, I mean, Keyshawn Vaughn might be rostered on Detroit. Let's say, like it's possible.
He's not done yet, like his career, but he's a deep stash. Out of Washington, Moose. Apparently, we got a little bit of a quarterback battle going on.
Well, this is I don't think so, but it is said that Taylor Henicke has been outperforming Ryan Fitzpatrick at minicamp, which is to be understood that Taylor Henicke.
I think he nailed it with Henicke the first time.
On this podcast, we'll call him Heineken because
good old Taylor Heineken.
That's what I'm drinking. It's old Taylor Heineken. Dave, can you drum up who the offensive coordinator is? You don't have to if you don't want to, but he already has a rapport with Taylor Heineken. And so people are saying that that's why he's outperforming Ryan Fitzpatrick. Obviously, Fitzmagic is learning a new scheme, but without a doubt, Fitzmagic is the starting quarterback. There's been a lot of praise from Terry McLaurin. It's Fitzmagic. Look what he did last year in Miami. You know what? He was great. He's going to be great in Washington.
I'm going to have a little fun here with this news. So I'm going to make a bold prediction.
I accept.
And I'll drink 2 for it.
I accept.
I'm going to make
Taylor
a prediction.
Heineken is not starting.
No. This is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say the same thing's going to happen as what happened in Miami. So Fitzmagic's going to start. They're going to pull him.
Nope.
At some point in the season, Henicke is going to start 2 games. 2 games. And then Fitzmagic will come back in.
Not even
Henicke,
close.
Wow. This is a wild prediction.
Not even close because you're already forgetting that Kyle Allen is still there.
Yeah, but Henicke won them the playoff game.
Is Kyle Allen in the discussion right now as to maybe take over Fitzpatrick's position?
Kyle Allen replaced Dwayne Haskins. When Dwayne Haskins was benched, Kyle Allen was the number 2. He was also in Carolina. He was the fill-in when
he was the only fill-in.
Okay, but whatever. He's still before Taylor Heiniken.
I don't believe that, and this is
well,
my
you
bold
should,
prediction.
Because even before Taylor Heiniken, they put in old bum leg Alex Smith.
This is a different season.
Just remember
so you can make a Michael Hasty bold bet last season. This is my bold one. So I know we're gonna.
Sure, this is it's very specific. So, also, I messed up. Taylor Heiniken didn't win their playoff game, but they came darn close against the Bucs.
So my prediction, I guess, is
excuse me. 2 games.
Henicke will start 2 games, and then Fitzmagic will come back in.
What if he starts more than 2? You still win.
It's so
okay.
absurd.
And Moose, you got to take it. Moose, come on,
take it. Of course, I already said I'd take it. I didn't, he could have said anything. I would have taken it.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. It's so unfounded and ridiculous. I'll take it.
How is it so ridiculous?
Dude, why do you, dude, they're not Tyler Heiniken isn't like their next quarterback. He's not Tua. He's just a backup quarterback. They're not trying to get him in. So why do you think they're going to?
I guess it's just a prediction on Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick to do that bad. You think it's do
Fitzpatrick
that bad?
didn't do that bad in Miami, and they benched him for no reason.
Well, they benched him to get their franchise quarterback in.
Yes. But when they're winning,
I'll take it. I'll take it because it's so silly.
So yeah,
write it down.
So this is
write
just
it down.
Yeah, I'm writing it down. This is going to be my one. I'm bringing it up now because it's we brought up this news,
and I'll bring it up again.
A bold prediction. We have our beer bet episode that we did.
I'm going to bring it up often just because it's so silly.
To have a guy that already started 2 games, maybe start 2 games. Even if there's an injury, he could start. I'm saying he's going to start 2 games, and Fitzmagic will come back in. So
let's put some rules in here.
Okay, here we go.
Barring injury, he's not starting.
That's not fair. I mean, the JaMychal Hasty one was all on injury. You wouldn't, and we had the same discussion. I was like,
but you didn't say he was going to start because of injury.
I'm pretty sure we'd have to go back. But I'm pretty sure that I precedented all that JaMychal Hasty stuff because I always said that everybody has shaky knees in San Francisco.
Yes, so that is what you said.
You're assuming that every season the running backs are going to get injured, so he comes in.
Okay, so I'll give this to you. I'll give this to you, Anthony. Okay, look.
Yeah.
If Taylor Henicke comes in because of injury, we both have to chug a beer.
Okay.
But he's not coming in like. Fitzmagic would have to be throwing interceptions like ludicrously, which I don't think he will. But they're not for no reason taking him out.
So we'll each drink one.
Let's say Fitzmagic is a freak Dak Prescott type injury. Okay, of course. Okay. They're gonna put the backup in. Like, what else are you gonna do?
But you said Kyle Allen might be ahead of him.
Yeah. Okay, whatever. But my point is they're not gonna be like, Taylor Henicke did amazing in minicamp. We're gonna pull Fitzpatrick out because this guy was so good at minicamp. It's not gonna happen.
Anyways, so this is so I'm saying it now. This will be my bold beer prediction for when we do our beer bet episode.
Very bold.
Yeah, so it's my bold one.
It's on par with the JaMychal Hasty.
My original one will be not because of injury. They'll put him in for 2 games.
Yeah, but I'm not denying that the JaMychal Hasty one was bold.
You know what you guys can ask? You should phone Scott Turner, offensive coordinator of the Washington football team, and get the inside scoop. You had asked for that a while back now because we just got crazy sidetracked. Glad we have a beer bet coming out of it, though. Last headline is that apparently news out of Pittsburgh is that Ben Roethlisberger is in the best shape of his life. He's been really grinding in the offseason, eating super healthy, training really well, and he's in the best shape of his life. To which my response to Pittsburgh Steelers fan, great, glad to hear it. But what took you so long? This is, for all intents and purposes, his last season playing football, and he has never seemed to value off-season training or nutrition.
I'm going to go with a stretch here.
Yeah.
And this is my impersonation of Ben. He took it and he tossed this burger.
Nice. Good job.
It's a stretch. It's a stretch. I'm aware of it. I'm aware it's a stretch.
Anyways, it's good for Ben. It can't be bad, but he's finally following in Tom Brady's footsteps. Just a little late, but I hope it goes real well as a Pittsburgh fan.
Supposed to relieve his knees.
Well, it should if you're lighter.
Main focus.
Yeah, if you weigh less, it should be a little bit easier on the knees for sure. How's his elbow though? That's what I really want to know. All right,
but can he throw a football clean through a car wash?
Who did that?
Dwayne Haskins.
Oh,
well, he didn't actually do that, but Ben Roethlisberger commented to the press that Dwayne Haskins can throw a football clean through a car wash.
Oh, awesome. Good comment. All right, I think we're ready to get into our main topic, which is draft tips and reminders and all sorts of fun stuff to get you prepared to dominate your fantasy football draft. Are you guys ready to rock?
100.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm going to lead it off, guys. And my first draft tip is to try your best to take emotion out of your decision making. We, especially us, not about you guys, but I get really emotional about fantasy football.
Very passionate.
I fall in love with certain players, and then you tend to get a bias towards them, or you hate certain players that burned you in the past or burned you in one player, one game, and then you write them off, but they could be perfectly good candidate for your team.
No, I believe you should do that.
You should write them off
like an entire team.
Oh, like the Miami Dolphins,
like
or
the Miami Dolphins.
But that's not such a bad idea. That's kind of using your noggin, not necessarily your emotions. And then, of course, there's the built-in biases of potentially your favorite teams or least favorite teams. I always have trouble with that one. I have now veered towards maybe the other direction. So whereas I used to be like, oh, Pittsburgh Steelers players, yeah, I love them. You know what? Now I'm almost like shying away from them because I fear my own bias about those players.
They say that's the downfall of fantasy football.
What is that?
Is that people lose their like fan base.
Oh, okay.
Like, for example, I've been a proponent to not do anything with the Patriots.
Yeah.
The same kind of thing. So, obviously I'm a Patriots fan, but, people maybe who aren't as committed to a team, suddenly they just become a fan of everyone, which is a good thing. But at the same time, you got to be a fan of a team.
Yeah, you got to be all in on a team for sure.
Another point that I would make for emotion, not only related to teams or players.
Hold on, guys. Can we just clarify? Because it sounds like you guys are saying emotion, as in
emotion. Emotion.
I guess that's just how I say it when I rush it.
Take your emotions out of it.
Okay.
Not just a motion. There's gonna be many motions.
There'll be lots of motions. Yeah.
So not only with players or teams in the NFL, but of teams in your own league. So I've used this example before. Last year in one of our main leagues, I was super upset at our draft because people were drafting even more wild than I had seen before, and then I lost focus because I was just vexed. I was livid. And I mean, it was my first
on tilt,
my first season ever in this league, not making the playoffs. Moose, you have the trophy behind you. How long has it been going on now? We're going 9 years, almost
6 or 7 years, I think.
7 years.
8 years.
7 it is.
I don't know. There's only 3 of them that counted.
Yeah. So don't lose focus in your draft either with the people you're drafting with, because sometimes with people drafting right after you or right before you, they'll nab one of the players that you wanted, and you might freak out and be like, oh no, who am I going to pick next? You just gotta relax. You gotta relax. Like we always tell people, prep for your draft. So don't get all emotional. If your player gets taken, have backups.
Yeah, so you have a lot of players you like.
Yeah.
Does that roll into my tip?
Yeah, go for it.
It could.
So my tip is, and it's a very common saying in the fantasy football world, you don't win the championship on draft day. So as Anthony was saying, have a plan. Stick to it as best you can, get the players you want, do what you can, but it doesn't matter. The draft is only the beginning. There's 17 weeks. Are we 14 weeks?
Well, actual NFL, there's going to be 18 weeks this year, but hopefully your playoffs
15
start week 15 this
15.
year. So your championship would be week 17.
Right. Yeah. So 17 weeks. That's a very long time. So I know I've had championship teams where a lot of the players that I drafted on draft day just weren't on the team, because I got rid of them because of injury or trades, or I just dropped them because there were better players on the waiver wire. So, go out there, draft the best you can, and draft with the mindset that your team will change. Don't think that, that's it. I got a great team. I'm going to win it. For example, last season, I think I had, for some reason, Anthony, I think was in my head, and I drafted Matt Ryan. Oof, what a mistake.
Oh, you did? I was very surprised.
But then
we were surprised. Yeah.
But then I made not a mistake. In fact, an epic trade that got me Dak Prescott, which then at that moment I would have won the championship with my team at that moment. But then that week, devastatingly, Dak Prescott destroyed his ankle and was out. So that's it. So now this team that I had on draft day has already dramatically changed to have Dak Prescott, and now I just don't have a quarterback. So I had to go on the waiver wire, and now I'm streaming quarterbacks. So I went from having, mediocre quarterback to having like what I thought was going to be amazing to now I'm in a situation where I'm streaming. So draft day does not determine how you're going to win your championship.
And you can look at it kind of, Moose, you're a homeowner now. The draft, your team is the foundation of your house. Then all the stuff built on top of it, any renovation you want to do after or whatever, is the rest of the season.
IKEA is the waiver wire.
The finishing touches that people first come in. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it is, isn't it? I like that. Well, you don't win your league on draft day, but you could potentially draft some league winners, which are players that are going to help significantly contribute to you winning your championship. And one way to practice getting there, and Moose, you have a follow-up to this, but one of my next tips is mock drafting. And I'm a big fan of mock drafting. Some people are turned off by it. Moose will get into that, but I think it's important, especially once you know your draft position, where you're drafting from. If you're a 12-team league, if you're drafting first all the way through 12, it's important to get in there and practice just to get a sense of generally what players are going to be available to you in each round, so you can start to get a sense of who you might be looking to target. And I think that if you're comfortable with various options at your spot, then you're going to be able to go into the draft and not panic and be like, all right, let's say you're going for Alvin Kamara, but he happened to pop off the one spot before you, and be like, all right, don't worry, there was plenty of mock draft scenarios where that happened. I'll go and scoop up Saquon Barkley, whatever it is, just as an example. But Moose, you had a response to that for your draft.
Counterpoint. Yeah, for me, mock drafting is not about that at all. Mock drafting for me is getting in the cadence of drafting. It's important to be prepared for your draft. You should have your rankings. You should have your ideal players that you want to pick, and then the two players that you would rank above and below that player. And your mock draft should be to practice how you're looking at that information while you're drafting. The reason why I don't believe in mock drafting is because you're not drafting with your league. So, where people go in those drafts is almost irrelevant compared to it's more important to talk with your league mates to see how high or how low they are on players, which will then give you the most insight on, where people are going to go, especially if you know what the draft order is. But for me, mock drafting is about getting used to crossing off names and, let's say, oh, holy smokes, that guy didn't go, or quickly looking up somebody, see, where they might go in your list, or maybe there's someone you forgot about. And so for me, mock drafting is about getting in the cadence of drafting, getting yourself comfortable with looking down your rankings, comparing it to, okay, great. I've already picked 3 wide receivers. I can take it easy and maybe get, my tight end or running back, something like that.
And specifically also a mistake from over mocking that you had mentioned, Moose. And I don't know if you clarified it there, but it's just that you can get hooked on taking certain players and then your eyes are going right towards drafting that player when, there's this other player that you in your mocks you weren't getting, but now he's available, and you skip over them because you're hooked on just, that's my guy, because you took them so often in your mock draft. So that is something to be careful of.
Yeah.
For example, like, a lot of people who are really dialed in on fantasy might be following some serious hype trains. And so players that in mock drafts would go super early in your home draft might go way later. So that now you find yourself reaching. Now you've just reached because you're comparing your home league to mock drafts.
Yeah,
so
right.
you just blown it. You could have got somebody else and gotten that person way later. So you really have to evaluate the people you play with compared to the people you're mocking with.
Yeah. And kind of to lead into my strategy, which can be practiced also at the mock draft, is stick to your strategy. So for me, I've expressed several times that I go heavy on the running backs early, and I load up on them because the draft is deep for wide receiver and all that. So stick to your strategy. If you want to go running back heavy, halfway through or in the third round, don't be like, oh no, it seems like a lot of the wide receivers are leaving and I might not have any later, and then go in a different direction. It just throws off your whole draft. You go in there, you prep for the draft, stick to your guns. The point of mock drafting, like you mentioned before, could be the reason to know what you can expect. It's not the same situation won't happen in your real draft, but mock drafts, you can practice the strategy you want to go with, whether it's drafting tight end early, go running back heavy, go receiver heavy, whatever it is, early QB, and then put it into effect at the real draft. So stick to it. It's not time to get cute. Focus on what you practice for. And then something else that I wanted to tie into earlier that could play into emotion or even working with your strategies is use the available tools that you have at your draft. So whatever platform you're on, every platform has a player queue. You want to use the player queue to slot in players in case, depending on your league, you might have different settings for the time that you have to draft your player, whether it's a minute, 30 seconds, a minute and a half, whatever it is. If you're new to fantasy and you're not, maybe when you're trying to think of who you're going to draft next, if you're a little bit unprepared and then the time is just going a lot quicker than you thought it would, it's just a safety net. You put some players that you have your eye on, and then if somehow the clock runs out and you don't get to select the player yourself, it'll take the player on the top of your queue. So you would get a player that you wanted anyways.
Most platforms.
Most platforms. Yeah. We draft on Sleeper. I know they have it on Sleeper. They have it on Yahoo. I draft on ESPN as well, and I'm sure that they have there, and NFL as well. So, I mean, the major platforms have it. So use the tools available to you.
And how many people do you put in your player queue? Just like you'll just start adding as the drafts go on. You're like, hey, these guys.
I have never once used the player queue.
I use it more
straight up.
I use it more towards the mid rounds because the mid rounds, those are value picks over there. So I put in a few players that I have my eye on because depending on your platforms too, like where you do your mock drafts or where you're reading the rankings, the preseason rankings in the draft, let's say like you practice on Sleeper, but your league's draft is on Yahoo. The rankings are going to be arranged differently. So a player that you expect to be, I don't know, ranked 40th could be ranked 60th on another platform. So then you're like looking for a player. You don't want to be scrolling through the rankings.
But I think that's a tip in itself.
Yeah.
Have your own rankings.
Have your own rankings. Yeah. So don't be a slave to the rankings on the specific platforms, especially if you're drafting on multiple platforms. Have your own rankings.
Or to ADP.
Right.
To average.
And it's not hard too. Maybe we can give the fans our Excel sheet to quickly do their own rankings super quick.
Yeah,
maybe
that's a
we'll
great idea.
tweet us or email us 3bfantasypod@gmail.com, and I'll send you easy to use Google Sheets to rank your players.
Yeah.
All right. Another big tip, especially for all you beginners out there, tight end is important, and it's something that Moose has been preaching always. And the fantasy football, he's the 3-time champion, and tight ends are always a big part of the equation. He's trying to get a stud at every position.
And kickers. Let's not. Kickers are important too.
Yeah, I'll debate you on that one. But tight ends, there's so few good tight ends. So if you're a beginner, if you can, just keep that in mind that if you can get one of the top 3, Kelsey, Kittle, or Waller, huge. That's going to be huge for you. And then there's maybe another tier of the Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, Kyle Pitts. But after that, it's crapshoot. So try and get one of those top guys. And then if not, you might as well wait.
Maybe to make it less specific, we could just we can group in QBs and just say, because Moose, I think, said it before we started recording, it's like, draft the best players at each position. So basically, if QB and tight ends are top heavy, which they are, and then it's a huge drop off, like, the only way you're going to have the advantage over the other teams in your league is to draft those players. So, I mean...
Sorry, you're saying QB's top heavy?
Well, yeah, because then there's a drop off and then everyone... No, but because when Moose says drafting QBs early, because you have the guys like Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Kyler Murray, let's say, that have the advantage on the other ones. Not that the other ones are drastically lower, but they're all within the same tier. So like tier 2 is like, let's say, has 15 players or 10 players, but the tier 1 only has 2 or 3. So there is an advantage getting those guys over the bottom or the next tier.
Not nearly the same advantages.
No, not nearly the same, but that's what I'm saying. You got to draft the best at each position.
And that's why I also brought up the kicker, because I know there's so much debate in this industry about the kicker. But if you play in a league with kickers, it's just as much an important position as every other position. And the best part about the information I'm about to give you is exactly what Dave said. He says, "Oh, kicker doesn't matter." Of course, kicker matters. If you have the highest scoring kicker, if every other position is equal, this is the same argument for the tight end. If every other position is equal, but you have that better kicker, well, you just won that week. So if you play in a league with kickers, take a little deep dive into kickers. My suggestion, the easiest way to look at kickers is high-powered offenses, because those offenses are going to at least get into field goal range. That'll get you 3 points on every drive.
Right. So who were the high-powered offenses last year, Moose?
Chiefs.
Okay.
Seattle.
Okay.
Buffalo.
The kicker for Indianapolis.
Yeah.
He was
Cincinnati.
good. I wouldn't say that's a high-powered offense. So
Cincinnati,
Kansas City.
The kicker for Cincinnati.
Right. That's not a high-powered offense either, right? But
well, it was high-powered when Burrows was there. He was driving them down the field.
Kansas City was the first you mentioned, right? And he was your big pick last year. Harrison But-ker finished the year 14th amongst kickers, and he was your top overall pick. The top kickers were Jason Sanders, Miami, not a top offense. Younghoe Koo, Atlanta, pretty good offense
total
for fantasy
points.
Total points.
Like I said,
no, but
third, Daniel Carlson, Las Vegas.
Like I said,
special stat.
You can get upset that
You want
don't like
points per
kickers,
game?
but I'm just saying
points
the
per
easiest,
game. Do the points per game. Your favorite stat, Dave.
Okay.
Because
you can get upset about it. But
so
the point is
number one, besides this guy Tristan.
If you don't want to take a deep dive into it, the easiest way is to look for high-powered offenses.
Okay. So number 2 is Younghoe Koo, points per game, 10.9. Jason Sanders, 10.6. Daniel Carlson, 9.4. Tyler Bass, Buffalo, 9.3. Matt Gay, the Rams, 9.1. Rodrigo
sound like pretty
Blankenship.
high-powered offenses.
Yeah. Or teams that just have offense. I mean, if like the Jackson,
all I'm saying is none of those kickers were drafted.
Their kicker is going to be sneaky good this year.
None of those kickers were projected or drafted to be like top 5 guys. They were all drafted later and ended up being the top.
That's what he's saying.
But that's not what I said.
Yeah.
You just want to get a kicker. Yeah.
You need points. You need points to win. That's it.
Sure.
Because if
That's
Adam
my tip.
Vinatieri,
That's my tip.
If Adam Vinatieri, like when he was like the best, not old Adam Vinatieri, if he was on a team that was just defense and slow-paced offense, like you're not even going to want him there. You know that Vegas, you know that the Jaguars they're going to have to air the ball out down the field. Those guys are going to get in field goal range.
Here's the thing: is usually in the third to last round is when I pick up Harrison But-ker. Usually I'm the first guy to pick a kicker, and everybody goes, "Oh, I can't believe you took a kicker." But the guy you're picking in that round, you're probably going to drop him. You know what I mean? You might as well just get what you think is going to be the highest scoring kicker. Maximize your points.
And I think a lot of fantasy players would say that the kicker is the player that you're most likely to drop because it's the most streamable position. And you could look at high-powered offenses and keep that guy for the whole year, or you could make the argument that teams that struggle to score touchdowns are just as likely to have a kicker that's in the top, like the Miami Dolphins. And then another option is just to look at teams each week, kickers that are going against bad defenses each week. That'll be that's their week that they're high-powered offense.
I'm not going to deny that there's a lot of variables to the kicker position, but in my opinion is locate and find a kicker that you think is going to score a lot of points and get him before anyone else does.
And then, okay, answer me this. If you had to pick, what's the least important position on your fantasy football roster? What would you say?
None of them. They're all important.
You have to pick. Most important.
No, there's
most
none.
important.
They're all important. They all contribute to my point total.
All right.
The biggest mistake you're making is thinking that one of them is not important, and that's how you win.
You have to prioritize positions at some point, right?
Yeah, but each position gets you points. So to think that one is less relevant than another one, in the grand scheme of things, is
okay.
Foolish,
Well, then, so based on that premise, the position,
obviously you wouldn't take a kicker in the first round. You take a kicker late.
Okay, right. So that does make a difference. So,
but I didn't deny that. I said you take him in the third to last round.
Okay.
But also, I get what he's saying too. Like getting a guy like But-ker, you know, if he has a down week, that you're not worried about him getting points the next week. The people that have a kicker that scores like 2 points, if it's like the kicker for Detroit, like when Prater was there, it's like people are like, oh my God, Detroit doesn't score. Then you drop him. Then the next week he gets 14 points. Then you're like, oh my God, I should pick him back up. Like if you get a guy like But-ker, if you get a high-powered offense, a kicker on a high-powered offense, you don't have to worry about it as much, and you shouldn't be worried about them getting points.
Except Moose, did you use But-ker the whole year last year?
Well, I guess
I used But-ker the whole year in another league because of what Moose said.
I guess except for his bye week, yeah.
Okay. And so But-ker ranked 16th in points per game, 7.9 points per game, which is terrible. And Moose won the championship. So it proves, in fact, two things. That one, going after what's considered the best kicker overall is not necessarily the best strategy. And two, you don't necessarily need the best kicker to win fantasy football because
nobody has said either of those things.
Well, that's what you're leaning towards.
No,
what I'm leaning towards is on draft day, get what you think is the best kicker. If you got to cycle that kicker out, go for it. But on draft day, I wouldn't just dismiss the kicker position and say, oh, I'll just figure it out on week one.
Yeah.
Go get the guy that you think on week one is going to score you the most points at the kicker position. Okay. And sure, if he peters off and he's no good, yes, sure, stream your kicker. But on draft day, get the most points at every position.
Dave, kickers are people too.
And my draft tip would be you could absolutely wait on kicker. You can draft them last. That'd be my tip for kickers.
Yeah. Well,
seeing as how But-ker had no effect, didn't even help you last year. But anyways, all right. What's the next tip?
You can't say that. You can't say that because he could have been the tilting point that won me. Maybe there was a week where I won by 1 point, and if I had a garbage kicker,
there's 15 other players who would have got you more points.
No, because if my kicker had got me no points, like he contributed to me winning. So I would rather.
When we talk about consistency, when we talk about guys like Lockett, Lockett had way more points than some of the other receivers, but none of you would take Lockett as one of your main guys because it's consistency that matters, and that's what I was saying. Harrison But-ker. Moose, you said Moose won with him, right?
Yeah.
So how many people in our league do you think shifted different kickers out of their team?
Oh, I'm sure plenty. Yeah.
Yeah. So Moose is saying that he thought Harrison But-ker is the best guy to get for him because of him not being worried. Like if he would get like 1 point 1 week, let's say, for somehow only gets 1 point, he's not worried that it's going to continue in that trend, because we know Kansas City is going to go down the field and score touchdowns or get over the
Some weeks he scored more than some wide receivers.
So, I mean, he didn't have to worry about kicker. Even if he wasn't the highest scoring kicker, he knew that he was a solid enough guy that he didn't have to worry about that position. And that was his strategy. And I mean, he's won 3 times. Like, he's doing something right here.
Okay, so you're still sticking to the 14th kicker overall on the year and 16th in points per game contributed to Moose's.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't predict that he'd be the number 1 kicker, but on draft day, I thought he would be the one who got the most points for a kicker, and he did a pretty good job at it. You got me quite a few points.
No, he didn't. You were wrong. But because you're so good elsewhere and you're such a good fantasy player, you still won.
Listen.
Won
Dave,
in spite of Harrison But-ker.
So David, here's this. Just don't even fill the kicker position next season. If the position's so irrelevant,
that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you want 0 points from it.
Now it's relevant.
But it's the least important position in fantasy football. And actually, all the positions on your,
I would say tight
multiple
end.
positions of on your roster, like running back and wide receiver, they automatically become more important than any single position, like kicker, defense, and quarterback.
Tight end and kicker are the most important positions because they're the 2 positions where you can score more than everybody else if you can pick the right player.
Yeah, and I agree. And tight end is, we almost know exactly who that's going to be. Kickers, we don't, because you thought it was Harrison But-ker, and you're one of the best fantasy players we know, and you were wrong. You were dead wrong.
Yeah,
he was outside the top 12 in both categories.
Sometimes you can be right, sometimes you're wrong, but it doesn't matter. The point is, you need to try and find out who that kicker is.
Right.
It doesn't matter what I do.
Well, no, you don't, because you want to.
I'm not drafting. I'm not drafting your team. I'm not drafting our listeners' team. That's the part you're missing out on, is that as the person drafting a team, you need to find the best kicker you can. And, we'll try to give you the best advice, but to dismiss a position is, that's your first step.
Not dismissing it. Not dismissing it.
You were dismissing it. You said it's the least important. It's in fact the most important.
All right.
You can make the biggest point differential between your opponent in the tight end and kicker positions.
Sure. Yeah.
Because if you just willy-nilly pick any kicker and he only gets 2 points.
The only difference between tight end and kicker position is that a tight end, that person who's making the difference is Travis Kelce. And last year, Travis Kelce and Darren Waller every week. They're pretty much making that difference. In kicking, it's a different player every week that's making that difference.
There are more consistent kickers. That's right. 100% true.
All right. For sure.
You haven't found them yet.
Harrison But-ker wasn't. Harrison But-ker wasn't.
Doesn't matter if Harrison But-ker was or not. It doesn't matter if Harrison But-ker was or not.
Because you won the championship with them.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. That's not what I'm telling people. I'm telling them you go find that consistent kicker and draft them.
If you do, it's a gold mine.
All right. Well,
you can find them in the last round.
I think we had enough kicker talk. I mean,
yeah. What's your next one, Anthony?
Well, I gave my 2.
You don't have another tip?
Well,
you had the player Q as well.
Yeah,
Moose, you had another really good one.
I'm exhausted. I've given out so many tips. I just DM me whatever. I don't even want to discuss tips anymore. My tips are being thrown to the wayside here.
We had a good chat. I just thought it was interesting. Kicker chats are fun, man.
I don't think. Did I have another tip? If there is, I don't remember what it was.
I think your last tip was get your guys. If you're trying to maximize your points.
Well, yeah, I think I just said that about 1 million times.
You did
in the kicker discussion.
Got it.
Get points.
Well, Dave, I think you had the last one.
The only thing that wins fantasy championship is points. Nothing else matters. Points. Just get your guys. Get the guys that score points.
Yeah, and I think, and Dave, just to make you understand a little bit more, yes, But-ker wasn't, but But-ker, because kickers are so hard to predict, guys like But-ker have more of a chance to be that guy. Wasn't that guy this season? And like Younghoe Koo was one of the top guys. Do you expect him to be that guy next year? I had Younghoe Koo in a couple of leagues. I don't expect him to do anything,
but we
go
all
anywhere
know.
near what he did, because Atlanta is up in the air. but we know Kansas
Every
City
drive.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted. You're about to say what I'm going to say anyway.
Yeah. Every drive, But-ker has the chance to get it.
No, every drive he gets 1 point, no matter what. No matter what, every drive he gets 1 point because Kansas City's scoring, and if they're not scoring, he's kicking a field goal. Even better, 3 points. So he's the safest. We always talk about safe players. He's the safest kicker because Kansas City.
Except for last year.
Yeah, but he was the safest because he's always going to be in the red zone.
No, there was 15 people that were safer.
But
had more points.
But Dave, what I think you got to look at too, which is, I mean, we don't have the stats on this, is the amount of people exchanging kickers. This is like the last comment we should have on kickers because it's just
you brought it back up, Anthony.
But I'm just saying that people change their kickers so much that like maybe people didn't even have the chance to take advantage of the kickers that finish in the top because they're sitting on the waiver wire, or people load up on kickers. They're like, I'm going to keep these two good guys because each of them have had like 18-point weeks, and I'm going to try and pick the week. So it's like Moose didn't have to worry about it. Next year, But-ker could be the lead, the top guy. Like in mock drafts now, it's Kyle Bass or Tyler Bass?
Bass, Buffalo.
Tyler Bass for Buffalo. He's going late in the kickers, like later than But-ker. And I'm like, Bass didn't do that bad. And we know Buffalo's going to score a lot. So to me, I'm getting him in all my drafts. Mid-round, last round, I'm getting Bass. And I'm like, I'm perfectly okay with that.
So you waited till the last round to get your kicker is what you're saying.
Yeah, but this is mock draft again.
Okay.
So
listen,
just making sure.
You can wait till the end and let champions pick up the kicker early, and that's up to you.
But like we were saying about mock drafts,
I would get your kicker before everybody else.
What happens in mock drafts doesn't happen in your real draft. So like if I get Bass middle of the last round, I might not get him middle of the last round. He might go earlier because people have the same strategy Moose does.
So no matter what, you're coming out of your drafts with Tyler Bass. Is that what you're saying? You're going to get your guy. You're going to get Tyler Bass no matter what it takes.
I mean, there are guys that I have like.
Is that what you're saying, Anthony? Is that what you're telling me?
Could we do
Tyler Bass or nothing?
Can we do an analysis of who we have in the third to last round?
For players, I mean, there's going to be some gems there. You could have got Robbie Anderson last year in that round.
No, third to last round.
Robbie Anderson he went undrafted in most leagues.
Goodness.
Justin Jefferson was a last round for me last year. Then I dropped him. You picked him up. Great. Helped you win. So yeah, there's plenty of players that you could draft. I mean, that you're the big guy, Moose, about you're a big sleeper.
I also think you gotta max each position as best you can.
Oh, for sure.
All right. So Dave, you had one last one.
Last tip for you guys is that running backs, everybody gets injured in fantasy football, so you need to expect injuries, but especially running backs. So if you only have 3 running backs that you draft,
terrible.
You're going to be looking for people on the waiver wire when one of them gets injured. So it's not a bad idea to stock up on some running backs. I just don't like round 3 to round 5, 6 running backs. They're not amazing, but in the later rounds, you want to pick up some guys like, Damien Harris. We talked about Zach Moss, people like that, Tevin Coleman, whoever you want that could be starting running backs. Not a bad idea.
And I know we say we don't wish for injuries. Injuries are inevitable. They're going to happen, especially with running backs, because they take such a beating. So don't be I was going to swear. Don't be my second one was a swear word too. Don't get cute and think that, just having these 3 guys, like thinking like, I got Dalvin Cook, I got Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Carson, that I'm going to be set. Carson's not going to get injured this year. Don't kid yourself. Like, running backs will get injured, so get enough of them on your bench to be able to save your season when they get injured. It's not if, it's when.
Yeah, and if you're stocking up on late running backs, another key strategy is take other people's handcuffs. Because that just takes them right out of the league. Injuries happen. We know there's running backs who have a history of injury. Take their handcuff. If that person is not gonna take the responsibility of handcuffing their running back, take their handcuff. And then when they get injured, you either you trade them at a high price, or you just hold them.
Smart.
Hold them
Yeah,
hostage.
That's
or
why
you
guys
sound
like
that
Pollard and Mattison always go higher in drafts because Dalvin Cook injury prone.
Latavius
Well, he's not
Murray.
injury prone. He's been. I mean, he was those 2 years,
Yeah.
but he's been healthy since.
That's right. But I think this is we'll finally see Madison drop a little bit compared to the 2 previous seasons.
Yeah. Well, also because he did start one game last year, and everyone was expecting great things, and he was just okay.
Like a great handcuff to take is
Yeah,
Pollard.
yeah, but
100%.
it's. I mean, everybody knows this. It's you got to be in the repetition of things. Getting dropped in cold it never works out.
Okay. I don't, it's very could be true. Yeah, could be true.
Most players don't have a great time when they just get dropped in. It's usually after 2 or 3 games, things start clicking, and then when they're a replacement.
Quite possible if you're not taking the first team reps, that's for sure. All right. Anything else on draft tips?
That was exhausting.
That was a lot. It was a lot.
That was a lot.
So many tips in
This
there.
is very. We were to leave the emotion out of the draft. There's a lot of emotion in that debate.
Yeah. Yep.
About kickers.
Hey,
kicker.
I will have lengthy discussions with people about kickers because I think that's the one place you can really take advantage of your league.
Yeah, the one place you didn't last year, but yeah.
Okay, we're not starting this.
That's just playing.
Well, what kicker did you have?
Man,
Probably like 7.
so many. Yeah, so many.
And where did they all rank?
No, I had Rodrigo Blankenship in one league last year.
No, just in our home league where I had But-ker.
I don't remember who I had. I'd have to go check. I definitely
probably irrelevant.
I think
Anthony, who did you have?
I had Young Wei Koo, but the rest of my team was garbage last year. So
there you go.
But Young Wei Koo was probably my best player.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anthony,
So
Anthony
14, and where did
Anthony had the best kicker
there we go. So
and didn't make the playoffs in that league.
yeah, but I'm not saying that the kicker will get you to the playoffs, but they could turn the tide on a week-to-week matchup.
He had Gay for the Rams. Matt Gay.
Matt Gay was who ended up being 5th. I think they said in points per game.
There you go. You wish you had him on draft day. That's too bad.
No, I don't.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah, you might have done better.
We're gonna go on to the next segment here. Dave. You know what to do.
They said it on Reddit.
That was pretty good. I don't think he was going to comment this. I didn't think he was going to comment.
I was waiting for you, Anthony. I thought you were going to say something. I thought it was wonderful.
Wonderful. All right. So this one's coming from user Mako3303. So his header is 2021 RBBCs, which is an acronym for running back by committees. In doing my research for the upcoming season, and I'm having trouble finding anything online about 2021 running back by committee teams. Who would you say will be the top 3 to 5 teams this year employing running back by committees to avoid? So I'll kick it off with mine. I think the biggest one would be the Houston Texans. They have David Johnson, Philip Lindsay, Mark Ingram, Roman numeral 2, and Rex Burkhead. I mean, these are guys that we've seen have ups and downs. And now we got all 4 of them on the same team. So, I mean, you want to steer clear of this because you don't know. I think we all know David Johnson is going to be the starter on the field, but then it's throughout the game.
You think David Johnson's going to start?
I mean, he's paid like it. He's paid like it.
For sure. When he's healthy, he's going to start.
Yeah. Week 1, don't know how long he will be the first running back on the field. And then throughout the game, it's going to be ridiculous. You don't want anybody on this team at the running back position until injuries start happening. Like we said, when they happen, we don't wish for it, but when it happens, or if 3 games into the season, you see that somebody like maybe Mark Ingram is just vulturing touchdowns, then maybe pick them up on the waiver wire if you need some points here and there. But I'm steering clear. This is one of the top 5 that I'm steering clear of.
So you think it's primarily going to be David Johnson and Philip Lindsay?
I think it'll be.
I think so.
Yes, I think so.
That's what they're going to attempt.
While they're healthy, and then once the injuries happen.
And just to clear up before we continue, to give a definition of running back by committee, because I know people can confuse or misinterpret it compared to what was the other term you said, Moose?
Timeshare.
So running back by committee is an acronym for running back by committee.
RBBC is the acronym.
RBBC is the acronym for running back by committee. The phrase refers to a team's decision to start multiple running backs instead of concentrating on one or even two solid choices. So it's more than one or two. So in this case, I know people misinterpret it and think it's like maybe a LA Rams situation where you have a Cam Akers and Henderson, Darrell Henderson Jr., where it's only those two, but it's more than two.
So yeah, the technical definition of the term is more than two running backs that are all being used. A timeshare would technically be just a split between two main backs. Could also be something you're looking to avoid, though. And then the bell cow back, which is what you really want to get, is the running back who's getting all the action. Like
in my opinion, a committee is just more than one.
All right. So who's the one that you're avoiding this based on that?
The first one that comes to mind is I don't know if I would avoid it, but I'm definitely taking it with caution until I have more information, and it's Las Vegas. Because here you have two good running backs. So, we've seen it work before, Kamara, Ingram, Devonta Freeman, and Tevin Coleman. It's worked out for fantasy players. So, hey, maybe that's what'll happen in Las Vegas. But until I see it, I'm not believing it.
They have Jalen Richard and Theo Riddick there, just to name some of the other ones. I know Jalen Richard has been there for forever.
Anthony, this is a serious podcast.
Yeah, but I'm just naming for other people.
Pretty sure Jalen Richard was on your roster at one point last year. They have relevance. They
definitely wasn't. I had Devontae Booker.
Oh, you Devontae Booker. Okay, I'm sorry.
It was Devontae Booker. He was the third one there, which I think is also a joke because he was being the third running back for years.
But Kenyon Drake wasn't there. He was the second running back there.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. And Kenyon Drake obviously wasn't there. Jalen Richard, I mean, he gets a couple of plays here and there sprinkled in. And I mean, Theo Riddick gets serious. Theo Riddick's not going to have much relevance.
No, I'm just
Moose, he's helping your point because you're worried about Jacobs and Kenyon Drake splitting the time rather than one of them being the main guy, right?
I'm just more worried about the unknown. I would love for both of them to just light it up every week, which I think is a very likely possibility. Because they're both talented backs. They've shown it individually at separate times. And maybe neither of them is strong enough to be a bell cow, and splitting time is what will make them super epic.
But you want to avoid that.
Well, no, I mean, in general, you want to avoid any kind of timeshare or committee, but this is one that, I'm avoiding now, but could be interesting later down the line.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, but for this guy who wants like a solid 3 to 5 that you want to steer clear from, this one you say has a little bit of hope potentially. Which one would you like?
But I'd still steer clear from it. Like I'm not. Okay. I wouldn't hedge my bets on it.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say.
And I mean, wait, just to interrupt you. Sure. You mean you make fun of Jalen Richard, but remember Miami last year? My guy that you said this is real podcast stayed on the team when two of your guys got released.
Patrick Laird versus
you're really going to put your reputation behind Patrick Laird.
But I mean, you told everyone to draft Jordan Howard, and I mean he didn't even stay on the team. So
that is true. That is true.
But anyways, that was just a little joke.
So for me, I'm actually switching up. So to me, the truest running back by committee, or one of the truest, is San Francisco 49ers, because they love to use all their running backs. But I actually I think Trey Sermon's a good target because of injuries, like we talked about last year, Moose. He could end up being a bell cow back there. So I'm gonna veer away from San Francisco, even though that's a committee, and I'm gonna go with Tampa Bay. And you can call that a timeshare between Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, or if you throw in Giovanni Bernard into the mix, maybe it is a full committee. And they don't care about fantasy football. Like, they have so many weapons on that team. They just care about winning, and that's going to be a really hard backfield to predict. And what's too bad for fantasy is that if one of those guys, Fournette or Ronald Jones, did get the lead role, and we knew every week, that'd be a really good running back to have on your team. But we just don't know. So it's going to be, and man, Bruce Arians, the head coach, he's very hot and cold about his guys. So like, if you fumble or you drop a pass, you're gone. That's the next guy in. So how many times do we have that last year? We saw that one guy start the game and not finish the game. So.
I think the Bucs backfield is the same way I feel about the Patriots. You're just never gonna know.
There's another one.
You're never gonna know.
Okay, so avoiding Raiders, Bucks, and Anthony Houston backfield. Those are all pretty good backfields to avoid, I would say, if you have.
And we threw in Patriots in there, so you can even throw that if he wants 5. And I would say that's solid. That's a solid.
And probably the Jets too.
Just because we don't draft the Jets. Well, then we should throw the Dolphins in there.
Well, yeah, the Dolphins. Myles Gaskin, Malcolm Brown, Salvin Ahmed.
Myles Gaskin's the guy.
I like Myles Gaskin.
Myles Gaskin, until he underperforms, he's the guy. But right now, I mean, the Jets have said that Tevin Coleman's the guy. Like, obviously, we have high hopes for Michael Carter, which, we've suggested you take potentially. But again, there's been also hype about Ty Johnson. It's just,
with where you can draft those Jets running backs, though. I don't know if I would avoid it. I would snag, I like Michael Carter for where he's being drafted right now.
Michael Carter would be the only one I take. But again, I'm still a little bit weary of that. Who knows? And
you got the sophomore LaMichael P. Ryan that's there too. I mean, they'll probably try and get him in as much as they can to try and develop. But yeah, you're kind of steering clear of everyone except Michael Carter.
And where has Frank Gore signed? Has Frank Gore?
He is not.
Is he back anywhere yet?
The end of an era.
We know he's going to find his way on.
He's going to play somewhere this season. Come on.
I think that's it.
I think it's fantasy football has to retire. You can't have fantasy football without Frank Gore.
We've had Adrian Peterson get signed at the last second before the season started.
You're right.
So I mean,
you're not wrong. But Frank Gore he wasn't quite moving as well as Adrian Peterson. He was moving.
Probably,
but not quite as well.
People like him.
I love him. Frank Gore is amazing. I honestly, Frank Gore is he's one of the great, barely any injuries, literally played till the end, So it's Frank Gore's amazing, but for fantasy, it's limited.
Yeah, we'll leave it at limited.
Yeah.
What have you guys been drinking on the podcast? I had chugged my water down, staying real hydrated and healthy.
Good.
It's gone.
Super exciting. I'm having another Innocent Gun. The single malt whiskey cask matured 51 days. I didn't mention that last time.
That's the perfect amount of days to mature a beer.
I thought it was funny, because most things, they round it to 50. 51 days.
I mean, clearly there's something there.
Yeah.
And I'm having the last Kronenberg 1664 Blanc.
64.
Flavored wheat beer with a hint of citrus. It doesn't taste like a hint, though.
It tastes like a whole lot.
A heap of citrus.
A suggestion of citrus.
5% alcohol, 500 milliliter can. The can is, as you can see, blue, red, and white.
Blue.
Like a Blanc. For those of you who can't see the can, I just described it to you.
Where's that can from, by the way? Where's it? Where's that beer
the
from?
The can was manufactured probably in Quebec, and the beer is from. Is it France?
I always thought it was France, but I don't think so. I think it's just German
France.
or Dutch.
I was just curious at what colors were on the French flag.
Bleu blanc.
Oh, Dave, I think we lost you there for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I think you're about to say bleu, blanc, rouge.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. It's the French flag.
Yeah.
The cans of French flag is what Moose is saying.
Yeah.
That got a little chaotic because we kind of disconnected there a little bit. It's very strange.
Oh man. Hey guys, I finished Loki season
So
1.
did I.
Oh, good.
Moose, you're waiting, eh?
Nope. I just I don't know. I just haven't really gotten into the Marvel
stuff.
TV shows just yet.
Loki's very good. I would say as a package, season 1 better than 50% of the Marvel movies.
I
at
don't
least.
I don't honestly watch much TV. Like I watch maybe one episode of something a night.
Fair. Good for you. Because you're doing stuff. You
Yeah.
just take care of business. Anthony, you didn't like Loki?
And then
I
working
did.
overtime.
Oh, okay.
But better than the 3 series are better than majority of the movies. That's a little bit of a
Well, we know
Loki-
Dave's
the
we know
season one-
Dave's
season
ratings.
1 Loki.
Dave's ratings are like hot and cold. Who knows?
I would say
Who knows?
season 1 Loki is better than 50, maybe 50% of the Marvel movies. Like
Holy smokes.
including like
50%. Buddy.
maybe yeah.
Holy smokes.
MCU universe.
Have you seen the Spider-Man movies? The Spider-Man movies are amazing.
Yeah, but I'm saying like the 2 Ant-Man movies,
Oh.
pretty bad. I just saw Black Widow, it's pretty bad. Like
Yeah,
I
but
put
those are,
Loki
like,
ahead
recent.
of those. Yeah.
That's not even close to 50%.
Okay.
There's
those are
still
the first
a million.
3 off
Have
the
you
top
seen-
of my head. The second Thor was terrible.
Yeah, the
what
second
else?
Thor was
Third
terrible.
Thor was really
Yeah.
good.
So
I
the
did.
2
The
Spider-Man
third Thor was great. Yeah.
Anyways, this is going to be another
What a
ongoing
wild-
conversation. And
what a
I'm
wild
pretty sure
statement.
Moose and I are going to just like bite Dave's head off if we get into detail about
Well,
this. So I'm just going
50%,
to.
that's a lot.
I think Loki's really good. So
I don't think Loki's
you know
the
what?
best series out of the
Unwatchable.
3.
Unwatchable. Just unwatchable.
Out of which ones?
Whoa.
50% of everything ever made,
WandaVision?
unwatchable.
Of WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I have the I'm in the odd category of saying that Falcon and the Winter Soldier was my favorite one because I think it had the traditional like action from the MCU universe and it had some really good political topics or like just relevant topics that are going on in the world that they address in the show. So I found it was like super cool on both sides of it. WandaVision I found was like unnecessary the first episode where it just, or the first 2 episodes where it, I kind of feel like they could just combine it into
alert.
one.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion.
I haven't seen it,
Yeah.
but I assume it was
But-
character development and plot development. Who cares about that? Let's just dive into the end. Just show Fang, and I'm good.
Show what? Oh, Fang.
Fang.
I don't know
The
what's
end.
happening. But anyways,
All right. So you didn't like Loki as much as those.
No, I still really liked it, but I wouldn't say better than 50% of the MCU movies.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Okay.
But
That's-
anyways, what I've been watching, like I mentioned before, is The League. I'm rewatching all the seasons because that's usually my little ritual before the season. Didn't do it last year, doing it this year, almost done. But the cool thing about the show is, besides the humor and all the ridiculous jokes that they make, is hearing names that
Of old players.
like
Yeah.
I don't know, just off the top of my head, like they throw out like Braylon Edwards or like Niles Davis when Jamal Charles was getting injured, and Isaiah Peed on the Rams. Like the Rams have had always these running back issues and having like random ones. So it's like just
Not
hearing
anymore.
these names, not anymore, but just hearing these names, it just really brings me back, and it's super cool.
Nostalgic.
Nostalgia.
I love it. Yeah, I'll have to give a little rewatch to the league as well before we get into our leagues. And we hope that today's episode helped you prepare for winning your league. As always, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Ciao.